What is good? We're back. Got the all ball knower, Chev Sanders. What's good, man?
Man, you know me. Any day on this side of dirt's a good one, brother.
Hell yeah, brother. We got some buy lows for you. We got some new ADP, so we sifted through it. We found some guys that we thought maybe should be a little higher. We went and found some trades. So overall, we're going to be looking at, players whose value might be a little bit down, and you can go in and find a good deal on. So we're going to get one at every position. We're going to start off at running back. I got a little bit more of the high end side, and Chev has a little bit more of the low end side. Just happened to work out that way. First, to lead us off, I'm going to go Breece Hall. And if you watch the mock draft Monday that me and Big Co just did, we talked about it in there, Breece Hall should be and can easily be a round and a half ahead of kind of where he's going right now, right? We're seeing Breece Hall come off the board at 309, average ADP and FFD for March, right? And he's a player who has first round to second round turn area skill wise, right? And that's when we start seeing players that start having a bit of a decrease in value, and it's really the first time that they're obtainable, which is kind of how I created a lot of my list here. And for me, Breece Hall is one of those running backs. He's one of the top 5 most talented running backs in the league. His pass catching prowess is off the charts. We saw him really bust out kind of as a rookie in that campaign, get cut short, and then kind of come back in 2023, had a little bit of a slow start, and then had some good games in there. And then 2024 had a pretty solid start to the season. And then, wheels kind of started coming off, but still really had some pretty solid games in there. I think he's still at that level of RB 4, 5, 6 for me overall, and he can be your 21 point a game kind of running back. Have the Jets really helped him out all that much? No, they certainly have not. And Rodgers and him look like they might have a little something, and so did him and Garrett, which, spoiler alert, Garrett Wilson may or may not be on the list. But then Devontae Adams came and everything kind of just went weird, and everything was super weird on the Jets last year. Now, we do have a bit of a concern at offensive line. I think mostly currently maybe right tackle might be the issue. The interior is not terrible. You got Tippmann, you got Vera Tucker, you have the guy they got from Penn State last year. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Olu Fashanu. And they brought in Simpson last year from the Raiders, who good interior lineman, right? Yep. So there's some good parts and pieces on that line, and we'll see what they do in the draft. If I'm the Jets, and if I have a hunch that I think they're going to invest heavily in the trenches in this draft, the coach just feels like that kind of coach. Like, hey, we're going to build from the inside out, coming from the Lions, who were kind of built inside out and heavily relied on that offensive line. And you have somebody like Breece and Fields and Garrett are going to be your main components of that offense. Let's give them the best chance possible. So I think we'll get another little help, but I think there's 4 solid players along that Jets offensive line right now, right? Would you agree? Absolutely. No, 100%. And I mean, just to kind of add some color to the picture of what we're talking about here, you've got Breece behind Devon Achane. He's at 309 in our ADP. I mean, you weren't getting him outside of the second round in last year, going into drafts last year. I mean, in best ball drafts, he was firmly the RB, the RB, what, 2 or 3?
Yeah, it'd be, Bijan, Gibbs, and Breece. It was those were like the locked in 3 guys.
So it's not a massive discount, but it's gone from, like you said, the grip, the iron fist has loosened on the grip that Breece Hall had on the RB spot. And so I think that, if you can get him for any sort of reasonable price without having to sell the farm, which is what you would have had to have done going into 2024, I 100% agree with trying to get him onto your roster. I was a little bit trepidatious about him being in the last year of his contract. I'm a big pay attention to the contracts guy, and he is in the last year of his contract. But honestly, if he leaves the Jets, I mean,
right,
it's almost better.
Right.
Now that I think about it,
we've seen, did Saquon Barkley suddenly get a better running back when he went over to the Eagles? I don't think so, right? We saw glimpses of how great he could be. There were some injuries, but then you go over to the Eagles and you're all world. Holy shit, look at Saquon Barkley. Did Christian McCaffrey, which had great seasons with the Panthers, get better when he went to the Niners? No, the situation just got a little better, right? So that either the Jets could improve and re-sign him and he be the shining light of that organization, or he could go somewhere else, to your point, right?
Yeah, and they did him no favors too. I was reading, I can't remember if it was on Reddit or somewhere. Shout out to you for putting me on Reddit. I didn't go into Reddit because it's just a series of rabbit holes that I can't get myself out of. But they were talking about the Jets scheme in 2024 versus 2023. Breece has almost a half a yard per carry difference in gap runs, which are counters, powers, all that type of stuff, versus the zone scheme that what's his face, Aaron Rodgers, Hackett.
Yeah,
Hackett, the offensive coordinator last year, he was running primarily zone schemes, and he averaged 4 yards a carry versus being at around almost 4.6 yards a carry. So if Tanner Engstrom, the new offensive coordinator, can come in and give him a little, just put the ball in his court a little bit more, do some things that he does well and do him favors, we're going to see a return to prominence, I think, that you're going to be looking back like, how did I fade Breece Hall?
Yeah. And just to look how he started off last season, 18 points, 24 points, 18 points in the first 3 games, right? So that's RB1 territory with how you want in points being scored. And then he had a 3 and a 6 against Denver and Minnie. And then he came back with a 21 and a 26. And then, the rest of the season was through there. He had some 10s, some 12s, a 31, finished the season with an 18, a 14, and a 13. So all the good juice was still in there. Had some good parts of 23 as well. Had an excellent rookie campaign to start. So it's all there. And really the theme of this episode for me is that there's some good players that the grip is loosened, as we both kind of alluded to. And to just give you some ideas of where Breece Hall is, I got some trades from Dynasty Daddy, and we'll get it moving to the cheaper end of things on this one. So Breece or the 107 and 208, right? And right now you might say, oh man, I don't want to do, but dude, Breece was a 3-round. You needed 3 firsts to get Breece, right? That's the kind of player that he was, and we're now down to a first and a second. That just didn't happen before. Breece or a 26-1. Breece, Keon Coleman 109 and 403. Again, on all these trades that we're talking about, this isn't going to be across all of your leagues, right? But there are plenty of people who have soured on Breece. We fielded so many questions after those first 3 games when he was in those 2 bad games. People are like, "What's wrong with Breece?" And I'm like, he just scored 21 points a game before these games. As soon as anybody dips. So Breece the 202 and a 26 first, right? So just again, we're out of the double first, triple first range of Breece, and you can get a single first and a single second, or like I said, Breece for Keon Coleman, Keon Coleman 109 and 403. That in what world? That was never a possibility for Breece Hall. And I'm a firm believer that there's a bounce back at the end of Breece Hall's tunnel. Breece or Kyron Williams in a 26 first, right? People hate Kyron Williams. He's in the last year of his deal at the Rams. Is that going to be as sexy if he goes somewhere else and doesn't get as much volume and opportunity as Kyron Williams is getting? And I'm a big Kyron Williams believer, but I'm just saying, there are options to get Breece Hall on your team, who is still 23 years old, and he's obtainable finally. And I think I'm willing to pay pretty much any of those prices that I just named for a guy like Breece, because all these running backs that are coming out this year that we're super excited about, maybe outside of Genty, Breece was all of those. Though you were way more excited for Breece than just about every single one of those guys. Now you might be a Hampton guy or a Johnson guy or a Judkins guy, but I'm telling you, he's been in the league. He's scored 20 points a game. He's been in there. We've seen it. So if especially any of those ones that are outside of those top 5 RBs where you're trading for Breece Hall, I'm in all day for that. So,
I mean, we're talking at the 107. You're talking Travion or Quinshon Judkins potentially, or Emeka Egbuka, and I had a higher grade on Breece than I do any one of those 3 players.
That's what I'm saying, right?
And at the 208, you could be talking about Jalen Royals, plus Quinshon Judkins for Breece, a 20-point per game scorer in full PPR. So you're hoping that those guys turn into that. Do I love those players? Absolutely. But give me, if I'm a contender, yes, ship it. Give me the bird in the hand. Give me a guy who can score 20 points a game, who was really good last year. He was just hampered by just organizational uncertainty, just the Jets being a joke of an organization. And so you can't say, especially from a dynasty perspective, that he's going to be mired in this forever. I made that mistake with Saquon, thinking that the Giants were just going to hold him and let him rot. And now he goes to the Eagles. And I got 2 firsts for him, but I still feel like I sold light after a 2,000-yard season. Right. And looking like he's not cooked at all.
No.
So, like that's the same. Breece Hall isn't the same talent as Saquon, but who is? But he's in the same neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And when Breece was coming out, and I know I excused him from being Genty, but he kind of was in the Genty category of being, hey, he's that good. And we were just to lead this conversation off, like we were just talking about how like he was basically solidified in that tree of the top 3 running backs. And now all of a sudden the grip is loose and things are falling down. So let's keep it moving here. What do you got for the bargain bin shopping in the running back department?
So we just gave you the Ralph Lauren. Let me give you the Ross version.
Okay.
Tyjae Spears.
All right.
So for me, Tyjae Spears, we saw what he did in weeks 15 and 16. We saw what he was doing in week 17 before he got the concussion. Just if he gets the lion's share of the work, and now he's going into his 3rd year of a 4-year contract, the Titans can move on from Tony Pollard after 2025 with just a $2 million dead cap hit. And you know that he catches passes. He caught 50 passes as a rookie, and he's shown that propensity over and over again. He's dynamic in space. They've upgraded the offensive line. I mean, you could say Dan Moore sucks. Yeah, that was the Titans signing at left tackle. But J.C. Latham plus Kevin Zeitler, we've seen Kevin Zeitler's work. If you're not familiar with it, go watch the Detroit Lions or the Cleveland Browns over the course of the last couple of years in the run game. So you've got almost 700 pounds of beef and one of the best offensive line coaches of all time in Bill Callahan there. And so I'm thinking that this is, even if it's more of a 50-50 timeshare, which I feel like Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, with what Tyjae did at the end of the year, plus them potentially moving on from Tony Pollard, this makes Tyjae Spears a tremendous buy for me. So they're going to be looking to see exactly what they have. I do anticipate them adding a late day 3 running back in the draft, but that doesn't deter me from the type of talent that Tony or Tyjae Spears is. Sorry for all the T's right there. So for me, get Tyjae Spears on my team. I really, really, really think that this could be a tremendous boom to your fantasy team. If you're to your dynasty team, if you are like a middling here's some of the trades. Okay. Tyjae Spears straight up for Michael Wilson in a star 9. Roman Wilson plus Tyjae Spears for a 2027 round 4 pick.
Whew.
Yeah. And that's in a start. I mean, that's a start.
Dumpster juice right there.
Exactly. Tyjae Spears straight up for Rico Dowdle. Okay. And then Tyjae Spears for Daniel Jones.
Yeah. 2 quarterback, 1 quarterback.
2 quarterback.
Okay.
So
all that stuff is late 3rds, 4th round-ish values right now.
Yes. So, I mean, if you're going 2027 round 4, like that's free.
Yeah.
We don't know what that pick is.
Yeah. Yeah. He's coming in right now at the FFD ADP in March at RB 42, 12 currently right now with Tyjae Spears. So, one guy we talked about at the top end, one guy we talk about at the low end, he's free. And even if Tyjae doesn't come in and dominate touches right off the rip this season, or injury or anything along those lines, it doesn't really matter, because this isn't a play to like go and plug in your lineup right now. It's a play of buying a dip and getting some talent. We know there's talent there, right? I love Tyjae Spears coming out. Unfortunately, Tyjae's season got a little beat up by Pollard, and Pollard was solid fantasy wise. He averaged 15 points for a long stretch of the season last year. But also, 27, 28 years old. Tyjae looked good at the end of the last season. We got to keep Tyjae healthy and without concussions. And you know, a lot of it was made of him not having an ACL or whatever it was the big, you know, big thing. And I was like, I don't give a shit the way that guy moves. He's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need to get the ball passing wise in both of their hands a little more. I don't think they did the best job, Tennessee, of exercising that.
Problem.
Yeah,
that's a Will Levis problem.
Fair enough.
We're just trying to keep the ball, like just keep possession of the ball with your team. Yeah, I'm a Titans fan. You can see the Corey Davis jersey back there. Like I'm just trying to keep it on the rails. So we can't really focus on getting the ball to ancillary pieces when your quarterback's just struggling with completing passes to people in the same jersey as him. So I'll excuse the lack of passing game production from the running backs.
All signs point to Cam Ward being the new quarterback of the Tennessee Titans right now. And as much as Bill Callahan, who's an OG, is a great, O-line coach, the son, who's the head coach, has touched all I shouldn't have said that. Has been around all sorts of very good quarterbacks in this league, from Stafford to Burrow to Manning to, you know, he's been around them all and coached them all. And you know, Levis was, thought maybe he might be able to coach something a little better out of Levis. But Ward, if he can get his mitts on Ward, I think that'll be a good match, especially if they can clean up that offensive line a little bit and clean up, keep Ward a little clean, right? So,
hey, it's clean. It's clean now. All Dan Moore not having to play Trey Hendrickson and Myles Garrett 4 times a year is probably going to do wonders for his pressure allowed numbers.
Yeah. All right, let's keep it moving here. I'm gonna go to the wide receiver side of things. I'm gonna keep this one a little more brief. I started with the Jets. I'm gonna go another Jet here. I mentioned Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson buy low right now, and on the same trajectory as Breece, where, you know, he's just in a spot right now where, you know, he was not this obtainable last year. Like it was very hard to get Garrett Wilson off of people's teams last year. And now you have a chance to get Garrett Wilson. And you saw Garrett Wilson sans Devontae Adams be a top 5 receiver in the league, right? He was getting a ton of volume. He was doing really well with it. I think people are a little scared right now of the Jet situation. I think some people aren't as sold on Garrett Wilson. I'm fine and very much sold on Garrett Wilson. I think he's a very top level talent in this. And now you put in Justin Fields, who he's already familiar with. And regardless of what you think of Fields, we've seen Fields do good things for DJ Moore, right? Through his 10-year with the Bears, right?
That's his best season he's ever had as a pro, is with Justin Fields, guys.
Right. So if I'm the Jets, I don't go in there trying to fix Justin Fields and make him what he isn't. Just like you were talking about with Breece, and, you know, having the OC put him in the known things and the known schemes that he runs well in, you have to do the same thing with Justin Fields. And you have to live with the fact that, hey, it's not always going to be pretty. It's not going to be your traditional quarterback play where everything's on time and the timing is exactly where it needs to be in his head. And you can be working on those things, but you need to be rolling things out, moving pockets, getting the ball out quick to Garrett and Breece. But when you look around, there's also not that many pass catchers around for, you know, to really take away from Garrett Wilson. And that there's already a little chemistry between those guys because of their previous stints in college. I think this is an easy no-brainer to go ahead and find yourself a little Garrett Wilson. Because just like we were talking before, like Garrett Wilson on a year or two ago was like, damn, could he be up there with Justin Jefferson? Like, could he be that good? And like, I don't know that he's that good, but he's a tier below. And I like, you get the ball to him and get the ball in his hands, he can be a real problem out there. So, you know, he was one of these guys. It was going to take multiple firsts to get him off your team. Now it might be 1 first plus an okay receiver, right? You might be able to go and you know, you might be able to take somebody like a DJ Moore and throw a first and get Garrett Wilson these days, right? You know, maybe something and right. So, and maybe you're saying, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Hey, DJ Moore was on this list for a buy for me as well. He was just the name that was just right in front of me. But you know, Garrett Wilson, currently, I'm trying to find the ADP right here. Going
wide receiver 13.
Wide receiver 13.
Going 307, two spots above Breece.
Right. So, I mean, that's very obtainable ADP for a stud player. So you go out there and maybe you could give up a first, a Xavier Legette, a second, and then throw some other trash, just throwing a real lower end receiver in there, like a first, a second, a Xavier Legette, and see if, the point for me is, and again, if you're throwing that at me, and I'm a Garrett Wilson owner, I'm not taking it, but everyone's not me, and every league's different, right? So what you need to go do is go out there and find and start throwing stuff at the Garrett Wilson owners, not the OG stuff that you thought of before, where it was like, hey, we got to start this conversation off with 2 firsts and a player. Like now we could start this conversation off with, some players and, hey, Jordan Addison right now's ADP isn't terrible. Maybe you throw Jordan Addison and 2 2s at somebody for Garrett Wilson. And just the point is I'm trying to start the conversation. I don't need to, the first trade I send you doesn't need to be the one that you accept, right? And I know some people play it differently, but for me, that's always what I'm trying to do. I'm going to go ahead and throw those couple of picks around here, and then I want to get some dialogue started. I want to start checking you to see where it's about the heat check, right? Where's the value line lie of what I can add and what I can take away from this to see what I can get Garrett Wilson for. And some people are just going to be like, no, it's a non-starter. But what I'm saying is he's the grip is loosened once again on a high end player. So I'm going out there. I'm throwing, a 26 first, a 27 second, and a mediocre player. I used Xavier Legette earlier. We could throw somebody like somebody in the sub. Right. Keon Coleman was in a Breece trade. Maybe somebody likes Keon Coleman, right? Just somebody that's young and fun and could be great, right?
Breece Hall.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky Pearsall, highest. Right now, a first and Ricky Pearsall might get you Garrett Wilson, right?
Jalen McMillan,
right. So
that's
kind of what I'm talking about.
Out there.
Right. Yeah. All right, who you got for us on the lower end here, wide receiver wise?
All right, this is gonna feel gross, but just let me paint a picture for you, okay? All right, we're back in Ross. Okay, we're in the bargain bin now. We've entered the store.
You're in the American Polo Association.
Yeah, we're in the American Polo Association. The United States Polo Association is what we like. That's the brand that we're rocking with right now. And I've got Dontayvion Wicks. Okay, this is the Green Bay wide receiver room is just filled with opportunity, and nobody is stepping into the role that they need filled for this offense to work the way that it's supposed to work. It was supposed to be Christian Watson, but he can't figure out. I mean, he did his best this year, and they decided that, okay, if that's the best that we can do, we're just going to feed Josh Jacobs 25 times a game. And that kept Dontayvion Wicks off the field because Christian Watson was better than him for stretches. I mean, his best game was 5 for 89 and 2 on 13 targets. And God knows how many drops that actually featured. But if you recall, there was once a young receiver in Green Bay with very similar movement skills. I'm not saying that he is. I don't even want to say the name because people.
Shmonte Schmadams.
Shmonte. It rhymes with Camonte Schmadams. Okay, so we're coming off of just an absolute dog crap year 2, where everybody's ready to write their former guy off after flashing as a rookie, and Dontayvion Wicks is going into a situation where Romeo Doubs Dubes, however you want to say his name, Romeo Doubs, last year of his contract, Christian Watson, last year of his contract. Clearly, they don't
hurt at the end of the season last year.
Say what?
Was hurt at the end of the season last year.
Yeah,
so
he's going to be out until at least November this year.
Yeah.
Right? So you have Dontayvion Wicks and Jaden Reed as the primary pass catcher and Tucker Kraft as the primary pass catchers. I mean, 29.5 targets per route, 25.5% targets per route run in 2024. They're making a concerted effort to get him the ball because he is the one guy that can win as a traditional receiver. Yes, you can scheme up Jaden Reed, but clearly that's not a part of their plans. As much as we wish, Cass, and as much as it's awesome sometimes, that's just not what they're doing. So we can continue to wish that that's going to happen, This is an NFL organization that clearly is not prioritizing getting the ball to Jaden Reed. So if you can go get Dontayvion Wicks, again, 29.5% targets per route run 2024, 26th in route win rate at 47.9% per player profiler. I'm not the super metrics guy, but those are interesting to me. Okay.
Yeah.
And the market's completely cool on him now. So here's a couple trades that I wrote down off of Dynasty Daddy. Just a straight up 2027 third. That's all you got to do.
Yeah.
Nothing else. Just a straight up 2027 third. Okay. Wicks and 307.
I can find one of those in the couch.
Yeah. Wicks in a 25-307 for a 25-304. Like if that's what it takes to get Dontayvion Wicks, I would do, and I get a third back. Yes, I would do that in a heartbeat. Wicks straight up for Jake Bobo, and Wicks plus the 312 for the 303. Yeah, I'll move back and take Dontayvion Wicks for the 303.
Yeah. 18-11 right now in the FFD ADP, wide receiver 84. Lot of room to pick up Dontayvion Wicks right now. He's in the, they're about to throw him in the dumpster behind Ross in a minute because nobody wants him.
This is all that meat from Tiger King that they threw out at Walmart.
Yeah,
that's all you have to pay to get Dontayvion Wicks on your team right now, guys.
And we know, traditionally the Packers don't draft a wide receiver in the first round, right? Maybe they'll draft one in the second round. Maybe they want to add somebody else, but maybe it's going to be the third, fourth round. And the thing is, just like you mentioned with Spears, if Wicks doesn't hit, it doesn't kill you. If Garrett Wilson doesn't hit, all these guys that I'm mentioning, it hurts a whole lot more, right? If Wicks doesn't hit, you took a good swing and still has chances to do his thing at any point in the season. You're not relying on him. So I love the shot. The build for Wicks is good. The build up for Wicks was super hot last year. It's cool. This is when the post hype sleeper, baby. That's when you buy, right?
That's exactly what I'm bringing you. That's why we're out here with the trash meat that you feed the tigers from Tiger King.
That's right. All right, let's move on to the quarterbacks. I'm once again going to stay on the high end of things here. I'm going Patrick Mahomes and staying with the same theme of this entire episode for me of, look, you could throw whatever stat you want at me for how many games he hasn't been a QB1, yada, yada, yada. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. What matters is this is the best quarterback in the league right now, right? And what he's been void of is an offense around him, right? When he came in, he had guys like Tyreek Hill out there who we've seen can just absolutely lift an offense to new heights. That's what was going on. He left. They kept going. But what they did this season was they tried to come in here and put a new offense around him. And unfortunately, it just got all messed up, right? Rashee Rice was on pace to be a top 5 wide receiver in the league this year, tears his leg all up. They have a rookie wide receiver who they draft pretty high, right? Trade with the Buffalo Bills to get. And rookie-wise, we've seen how the Chiefs bring rookies along, typically a little bit slower in how they develop him, how they use him. And then they signed Hollywood Brown, who was lighting up training camp and then has a terrible shoulder injury, right? So you have they're all coming back, right? And maybe there's a suspension for Rashee Rice looming here at some point. We don't know. And it seems like Worthy's clear and free of everything. We don't know. And again, this isn't the morality police. I'm not hiring these kids to watch my children, right? I'm playing fantasy football, right? So you could take that right out of here. But what you now have is you have Rashee Rice, who's not slow, coming back from an injury, but it was an early injury. You have Hollywood Brown, who can get downfield and stretch it. And you have Worthy, who's at least, if he's not the fastest, he's one of the fastest men in the NFL. And what that last year just forced Worthy to do was become a pro. He learned how to play a bunch of different positions. By the end of the year, Worthy was a problem, and they didn't have anybody else that you were worried about. And Worthy was still a problem. The guy in training camp that you saw videos of getting thrown around and people were like, oh, this isn't going to work, and the dumbest shit ever. Yeah, that guy was absolutely slaughtering NFL defenses.
I mean, look at the throw in the Super Bowl. You can say it's in garbage time, but that's cover 2
right?
That he ran by. He out threw the coverage, and that's what Mahomes can do. He's still one of the most singular talents that we have ever seen from an arm talent perspective at the position. It's just that he learned how to win without doing spectacular stuff, just like Tom Brady.
Exactly.
So there's a period of time where you couldn't, like Tom Brady was really boring for fantasy, and then he gets Randy Moss, and then
bingo.
Voila.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Like there was peaks and valleys of Tom's career. He was always a solid starter, but he wasn't the QB 1 or 2. And then all of a sudden, bang, he bounces back and he's absolutely ridiculous and ripping it off the hinges. You know, Patrick's going to have a long career and it's going to go like this a little bit. He knows how to win. And then all of a sudden you can surround him with this more talent that you haven't seen offensively from them. They've been, you know, relying on the defense and Patrick to go win games by small margins. Don't be surprised when they're back to getting some explosives and some bigger margins with the offense that they're rolling out there this year. If they could stay, you know, on the healthier side of things. And I'm sure they'll add, you know, a few parts and pieces here. The defense is still good. Spags is still around. So all the parts and pieces are there. Patrick, like how long Brady go without winning a Super Bowl? 10 years? Like,
yep.
You know, so it's just
14.
We're riding this high right now. You can get Patrick Mahomes in the second round of startups. I see it in almost every single one. That doesn't happen. Like just like we were talking about with Garrett and Breece, like go throw a first at somebody and Brock Purdy and see if you can go get Patrick. Like I'm just throwing Brock Purdy's name out because that's the first name that popped into my head. But like you could take your second quarterback and a first round pick, and maybe you got to add some stuff to it, but go heat check where Patrick Mahomes is in your league. And I know we get so near or farsighted. I don't know which one it is where you can't see far away, but like, since he is where he is right now, he can't go back to where he was. Right. So it doesn't he's clearly, and everybody knows it at this point. If you don't, you're just a hater. He's the best quarterback in the league. And on top of that, like he's still for the last 3 years has averaged like over 300 yards rushing, right? He's been like 7th, 9th, and 11th in, you know, total rush yards. And he's super frustrated. He could get more of those. He just chooses not to because he's so smart and he's so manipulative and he's so good. And, you know, yeah, do I like some of the shit he pulls sometimes? Do I want him to get cleaned out on the sidelines every once in a while? I do. But there's also some still hidden yardage. He's not Josh Allen. He's not Lamar Jackson, but I'm telling, like, he's been in the top 12 he's been in the top half of rushing yards for your quarterback, which, you know, hey, if it's 4-point passing touchdown, of course you want the guys like Lamar and those other things. But if it's 6-point passing touchdown, you get a little bit of best of both worlds with Pat. And I think we're going to see plenty more times throughout Pat's career where he's in the QB 1 to 3 conversation than in the QB wherever you're taking him now, 10 to 12 to 15 situation. So the gate is open. I'll pay 2 firsts for Pat right now. Or he's not even like we've talked about all these other guys and them not being attainable. Patrick Mahomes was completely off the table for just about any situation that you were in, and he's able to be gotten right now. Go send some offers.
100%. I couldn't agree more. That's the beauty of the game, is that you get dynasty windows where, yeah, you draft him and he's not as productive as you would like. And then people are like, oh, well, he's just never going to be good again.
Yeah.
And you understand that it's cyclical and they just happen to have a Super Bowl caliber defense for the last 2 years. Nobody warned us about that because going into 2023, we were talking about, oh, yeah, the Chiefs defense is a defense to target. And that's going to be great for fantasy because Patrick Mahomes was coming off of a 5,000 for his second 5,040 season without Tyreek Hill. So you think they're going to get all these explosives. They switch gears. They win a Super Bowl with that defense. It carries over into this year. He's still not great at the beginning of the year, but Rashee Rice is cooking. And you think that it's going to start to click. And then Rashee Rice goes out and they're just having to piece it together. And then over the course of the second, I was trying to look up, I wrote an article for Player Profiler, the news desk, about Xavier Worthy's second half. And he was on pace for 94 catches for almost 1,000 yards over the course of the second half of the season. Same thing with Rashee Rice. His rookie year, he was on pace for 100 catches and 1,400 yards over the course of the second half of the season. And then Tyreek Hill's rookie year, he was on pace for almost 700 or 800 yards receiving and 500 yards rushing. So they do this with guys that they hit on. over the course of the second half of the year, you can almost book it. Those guys are going to have prolific paces, and they're going to be values going into 2025. I mean, they're going to be values going into the next year, 2025 for Xavier Worthy. And again, you're probably going to get a discount on Rashee Rice. So if you're buying the weapons, it doesn't make sense to not buy a guy who very clearly can be the overall QB1, especially in 6-point passing leagues. And it's not QB1 by like a little bit. It's QB1 by, oh, I'm going to have a historic season.
Yeah. Like, oh, shit. But yeah. So
Patrick Mahomes, ladies and gentlemen.
Patrick Mahomes. All right. Who you got on the cheap end here? Or I don't think you went super cheap on this one. I think
I didn't go super cheap. I mean, I'm not in the bargain bin anymore. I'm actually outside of the department. I'm outside of Burlington now. And I'm about to walk in. I'm gonna go over to the sale aisle. Okay.
The youth sale aisle. Youth sale aisle.
Youth sale aisle. Okay. Youth. Is you small. I'm gonna buy my son a coat. I'm buying a coat for Bryce Young too while I'm at it.
Same. So you don't have to leave the youth section to buy that.
No, they're the same size.
Yeah.
So Bryce Young's currently QB 22 in our ADP. I mean, we prematurely wrote his obituary after it not getting off to a great start. Again, we talked about on the previous episode where we're adding redraft player or redraft mentality to a dynasty team, and we immediately wrote off the number 1 overall pick as dead because he was sent into one of the worst situations known to mankind as a rookie, and then it didn't get off to a fast start last year. Well, he comes back, and you could see the confidence starting to grow, and it culminated in that Week 18 look off touchdown pass to Jatavian Sanders. Newsflash, he might be a buy low for me also. Woo. But I love the price that you can get for Bryce Young right now. And I think that the best is yet to come for Bryce Young. So we got Jerome Ford for Bryce Young and a 1 QB. Give me Bryce Young all day long, regardless of whatever the context is.
Sure.
And then David Montgomery in the 208 for Bryce Young. Give me Bryce there. And then in a 2 QB, Bryce Young or Chris Olave. Start 9. Give me Bryce Young.
Yeah, I might still lean Olave there, but I'm probably the one in the minority there. But and it's hard to not have to trade a quarterback in a super flex trade involving a quarterback is very difficult. So you kind of have to amplify some value a little bit. But they're pretty close. 512 right now for Chris Olave and FFD ADP and 609 for Bryce Young. So in the neighborhood, right?
Chris Olave and Jalen Waddle are very close. Chris Olave is on the verge of being a Jalen Waddle level deny for me.
Yeah, I know. I had a feeling,
man.
I had a feeling you were sick of it.
Yeah, I'm sick of it. I mean, just the idea that you would trade for a guy who, man, we're in Tua territory from a concussion standpoint where this dude is one hit away from being, Finkel is Einhorn, Einhorn is Finkel, and like calling out cadences into bushes and stuff. So I can't buy Chris Olave, especially if I can get a guy like Bryce Young, who's going into the 3rd year. He's got noted QB whisperer. He's got some chemistry with his guys, and that's a team on the rise.
Yeah.
You've got a solid ecosystem around him now, and you saw the things that made him the number 1 overall pick. And I can't deny that. I don't think that genie's going back in the bottle.
No, I don't mind buying Bryce Young at his current startup ADP. And I do think he's somebody right now that you can trade for in Superflex, just like I kind of talked to before you went on your Chris Olave rant, without having to give up a quarterback, because I do think there's plenty of people who are just so excited to be able to get some good value for Bryce Young that they're okay with unloading him without getting a quarterback in return right now. Or if it is a quarterback, somebody, would be excited to get a good player and like a Geno Smith back, because they're like, oh, well, I know I'm good with Geno, even though he's a lot older. And some people just aren't going to be believers. I'm in your camp. I'm mostly a believer. I'm also a believer in Chris Olave. I think he's going to be just fine. But I think I'm, again, in the minority on that one. So
Agree to disagree. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not going to I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm just saying the price needs to come down some more for me to be in on him.
It's coming. It keeps on falling. It was in the 3rd. Now it's in the 5th. Looks like it could be falling to the 6th. So I think you're right there. All right. Let's keep it moving. Last but not least, tight end position. All right. I didn't go super hot and heavy on this one. I stayed on the cheaper end to end the show. I want Evan Engram. Now, RFFD ADP is not going to currently reflect where he is in real life right this second, because obviously he got traded while a bunch of these drafts were going off. We just did a mock and he went a round and a half earlier. So he's at 13.7 here. I think he went like 12.01 or 12.02 in the last draft we did. I would take him even earlier than that. He's 30 years old. He's kind of in that pass catching tweener role of tight end. And I think he just went to a really good situation that can utilize that. You know, every coach and OC could like the idea of Evan Engram, but they're not going to be able to use him how he's going to be best needed to be used. And Sean Payton, I think, is coming in here with a clear plan of and a known plan of being able to scheme up a tight end in a bunch of different ways. And Evan Engram now with Cortland Sutton being there and Bo Nix with some legs, like this is somebody who can just soak up the middle of that field for Denver right now. And we're talking tight end premium almost every time we talk. So his catches are at a minimum amplified by a 0.5 point a catch. And over the course of the season, those can really add up. And Evan Engram right now for me is one of, like, you know, I know your guy is one of my favorite buys as well, but I'm not buying him to start him. Like Evan Engram, with the amount of startability I think he's about to have, is going to be one of my favorite purchases of all off season. And right now we have some trades here. We got Evan Engram in 1 point premium, so an extra point per tight end catches, for a 2.7 and a 26.2. Now you may come in here and say, no, that's way too expensive. You don't understand. He's getting 2 points per reception. So like that's insanity. The amount of balls that Evan Engram could catch this year could be asinine, right?
Just yeah, I'm with you here. Go on. I'm gonna let you cook, and then I'm gonna agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said.
Yeah. Evan Engram and Kenneth Walker for a 26.1 and a 26.2. So you're getting Walker and Engram, and this is a 1 point premium tight end. So every time your tight end catches it, you get an extra point. So you're getting 2 points per catch per tight end. Like me and Big Co have done plenty of shows on this. Like, so if he goes 6 for 60, he just went 12 for 60 in the box score as for the tight end position. Like it's ridiculous. Massive. Which he can have a lot of 5 to 8 catch games in this Broncos offense with the guy that just got a hold of him. All right, Evan Engram for 2.08 and 0.5 point premium. Evan Engram and 0.5 point premium, 3.05 and 3.10. Evan Engram for 2.11, 0.5 point premium. So there's 5 trades right there where Evan Engram is, and that those were trades as late as a day or two ago, right? So those Dynasty Daddy does a good job of having, you know, obviously he's got all the sleeper trades that kind of go down on there, so you can kind of sift through them. So those aren't outdated trades when he was on the Jaguars or a free agent. Those are trades knowing that he's going to the Broncos, right? So that's current market value on Evan Engram. Like, yes, I'm sure you can go there and find trades that have more potency to them, but that's 5 trades right there of gold for Evan Engram to be able to really help your fantasy team this year. So I'm going Evan Engram.
1,000%. I love that. And the one thing that you I was hoping that you would mention was the fact that Sean Payton's been very vocal about incorporating the Joker role from his New Orleans offenses into this Broncos offense. And obviously they've been very vocal about continuing to surround Bo Nix with weapons. So Evan Ingram's 2 receptions away in 2023 from setting the all-time or tying the all-time receptions record for a tight end with 104. He finishes 114. He needed 116. That's the type of talent he is at the receiver. He's commanded 143 targets before. And in this offense with Sean Payton, are we certain that he's not the number 2 behind Cortland Sutton? Like, are we is there anybody else that threatens you?
I mean, you got Mims and Vele and Franklin, right? And I think Mims can take a step. I think Franklin can take a step, but
Sure.
those guys are not going to have the role what Evan Engram is about to have on this team. Like, it's just, for me, it's a no-brainer. Now the running back can come in, and we're suspecting that there's going to be some decent capital on there, and he could certainly eat up some of that volume that can go between Sutton and Engram. But I mean, that's for what we're paying for Engram right now in a startup and in trades that we just mentioned. Like, that's okay. Like, again, in any sort of premium where he's getting extra points per catch, like, I only need him to have 4 or 5 catches most games. And if he scores a touchdown or he breaks one off, like, this is a very fluid, athletic guy who can be Bo Nick's best friend. So I really like Evan Engram. All right, who you got as your last guy here before we wrap up?
Dontayvion Sanders. Yeah. So he's only he's 3 spots behind Evan Engram in our ADP currently. I mean, he's going 1402. And in tight end premium, and we saw a little mini breakout for him. I mean, coming down the stretch, weeks 5 through 9, he earned at least 5 targets in 4 or 5 games. He had 3 top 15 finishes where he surpassed in 2 12-point games in that stretch, and a 70% route participation rate in 3 of those 5 games. He ran 177 routes from the slot. He was number 1 in target separation among tight ends. There's 106.9% or 106.9 passer rating when targeted, and he had a 73rd percentile 40 times. So all of these things are alluding to the fact that, like, he's a really good football player. And you saw it once Bryce started to get confidence, and he wasn't just being automatic. Let me just not make a mistake with the football. Let me just get to the next down. Dontayvion Sanders started to be a featured part of that offense before he dumped 250 pounds on his neck against the Chiefs. He was out for a few weeks. So this is a talented guy. This was one of Texas' go-to weapons in a gotta-have-it situation in college. And that's something that they don't just give that to you as a tight end. And so with the question marks surrounding Adam Thielen and his future and Xavier Legette, we don't really know what he's going to do. They thrust him into the role of outside X wide receiver, and that failed miserably. You do have Jalen Coker, who I like a lot. That was almost my buy low, but he's 24 spots higher than he's at wide receiver 60. I love Dontayvion Sanders and the value here. So I'm really, like, you don't have to give up hardly anything to get him.
Yeah.
And again, we're in the bargain basement. This is nothing. I mean, let's just, for example, Nico Collins going into 2023, right? That he was a nothing burger.
Right.
You could get him and all of a sudden, boom, into 2023, this is a guy who's a top 10 wide receiver, and you just had him just sitting on the end of your bench. So these are all guys that you could 100% just go give up a third for, or go get, especially in a tight end premium, you could probably give up a fourth and, old busted tight end. I didn't look up a trade for this one just because I was like, hey, this is a guy that essentially is free.
Yes.
Like, you don't have to give up hardly anything to get him, and people aren't going to be thrilled about, people aren't going to be just gung ho about, I've got to hold on to my Dontayvion Sanders. So you can probably go give up a guy like Jerome Ford and get Dontayvion Sanders onto your roster in tight end premium easily.
Yeah.
So
no, 100%.
For me, that's it makes too much sense. And with, again, this Carolina offensive ecosystem is no longer a dumpster fire. And I fully expect for them to be all of the players to be of value at their current ADP. So Dontayvion Sanders, for me at tight end, this makes all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, JT Sanders has forever been a favorite, so I love that one. He's super cheap. Like, you can probably get him for very cheap, a cheap throw in a deal. Like, these are kind of the guys that, I usually don't go just straight after. I try to find a deal, and then I try to get them thrown into the deal for very minimum there. Sometimes these cheap guys are hard to get because you don't, like, unless you have 5th or 6th round picks, it's hard, to just throw a fourth at somebody and get Sanders. That may do it. And you alluded it to on the last guy that you were trading for with some real cheap, or maybe it was Wicks with some real cheap stuff. But sometimes somebody like Sanders, like, sometimes you're jockeying around and you just can't quite find the cheap stuff to flip on each other to get rid of. So he's typically somebody that I'll throw in a deal to try to get something done for Ja'Tavion Sanders. But love him. I think he's going to have a great 2025 here. So perfect way to end that show. Chev, where can we find all the rest of your work outside of always here at the FFD?
I'm never going to live that down, am I? Yeah. So you can find me. I just started doing another podcast. I mean, I don't, where do I have the time to do all this? But you can find me at Uncovered NFL. You can find me on Third and Dynasty on the Player Profiler Now network. You can find me on the Dynasty Pulse and on podcasts. You can find me at 2 Guys 1 Pod FF. I'm at Chev90 on X, aka Chev Doer Sanders, aka the legendary ball knower. You know I got to get my AKAs in.
Got to.
Especially gonna call me all ball knower. So yeah, man. Just if you want to make it more simple, just go to my page and then just scroll the feed and just click on one of the things, and that's probably something that I'm involved in that I've retweeted.
Yeah, make sure you go check it out if you want some more Chev in your life. All those opportunities to get it. So
I'm flattered and honored.
If you want more me, you just got to wait until the next time something from the FFD comes out, because your boy's tired. So that's all I got time for. All right, we appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next time. Peace.